All right, we will go ahead and get started. Welcome to our youth advocacy webinar. We have a great lineup of speakers for y'all. And we'll go ahead and have Nicole Golden, the Executive Director of Texas Gun Sense, introduce herself and say hello.
Hi, thank you. I'm just here to say thank you so much for being here. As Jesse mentioned, I'm the executive director of Texas Gun Sense, and I'm just so proud that you all have tuned in to participate in this event. Engaging student advocates has been a real big priority for us at Texas Gun Sense, especially under the leadership of Jesse and our interns who are both here, Serena and Shayna, and then some of our partners who are speakers tonight. And we've been looking at ways to do that because it feels extremely important to equip the next generation of leaders, especially a generation that's been so affected by gun violence, school shootings, lockdown drills, and sometimes watching a lot of inaction on the part of our lawmakers. And so we've been looking at ways to do a better job at engaging that generation and also helping our advocates of all ages learn the skills that they need. And so this is part of that. This is part of that tonight. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention that Jesse from Texas Gun Sense, who you just heard from and who's moderating tonight and put this event together, just received an award yesterday. She's one of Next Gen America's Gen 10. That award honors young people who are leading the movement to just really shape the future and shape policy and culture and advocacy. And she's one of several gun violence prevention advocates who was a recipient of that award. And we're so honored that she was one of them and so proud of her and the work that she does. So I need to embarrass her and tell you that.
Thank you.
It's very, very cool. Anyway, just again, thank you to Jesse, Serena, Sami, Asya, and Jasser for being our speakers tonight. And thanks to everyone here. And I hope you have learn a lot and stay engaged.
Yeah, thank you so much, Nicole.
Thank you.
All right, so yeah, as she said, I'm the Advocacy and Outreach Coordinator at Texas Gun Sense. And a little bit about me, I was born and raised in Austin, and I've been working on various advocacy initiatives since the age of 16, including sustainability, abortion access, voter access, and public transportation. Since the 2021 passage of permitless carry in Texas, I wanted to get involved with gun violence prevention and focus on that. And I started out as a volunteer with Texas Gun Sense and then started working for the org in November of 2022. And gun violence is an issue that is so pervasive and intersectional, and it's really crucial to include youth voices in this conversation. Young people grew up with school shooter drills and the constant fear wrought by anticipated gun violence. And we all want to grow up in a country that keeps its residents safe. Young people are the future of this movement, and we refuse to accept the current levels of gun violence as normal. Now I'll give you an introduction of each speaker, and then I will go over our youth advocacy toolkit, and then they will all speak after that. So Sami is a high school senior from Houston, Texas. Beginning in 2021, Sami joined March for Our Lives Houston as a legislation team member. Co-authoring the Houston Policy Plan, Sami was appointed to the Harris County Safe Schools Commission to develop school safety policy recommendations in the third most populous county in the nation. Noticing a lack of youth representation in legislative processes, Sami collaborated with a Texas representative to draft HB 2076, a bill aimed at closing a loophole in domestic violence firearm prohibitions. Now, as the co-executive director of March for Our Lives Houston, Sami strives to develop data-driven policy solutions to gun violence. And then next we have Asya, who is the co-executive director of March for Our Lives Houston alongside Sami and a senior at Dulles High School. She has organized and spoken at rallies at the Houston City Hall and Texas Capitol, town halls, mutual aid drives, and workshops. Asya works with the UTMB's Center for Violence Prevention on policy briefs and as a fellow for the Institute for Youth in Policy on policy reviews. She has served on her city's youth council, school advisory committee, and as a staff writer for The Progressive Teen, a publication from the High School Democrats of America. And then Josser is a junior at Rice University and a Team Enough executive council member representing Brady United Against Gun Violence in Houston. After a loaded gun made its way onto his high school's campus in 2018, Josser advocated for increased firearm education for parents and guardians of minors in Kentucky. Josser is working to expand Team Enough and Brady's efforts in states like Texas, where corrupt politicians and an entrenched culture have impeded efforts at gun reform. Even though policies such as raising the age and universal background checks have broad public support in the state. And then lastly, we'll have Serena Ray, who is a junior in high school, who is the founder of Austin Youth Gun Violence Awareness and an intern for Texas Gun Sense. Through her work in art advocacy and education of policy, Serena has worked to uplift youth voices in the Texas community and encourage expression and awareness. She has also worked directly with AISD to spread resources for gun violence awareness and is working to host a summer art gallery of advocacy artworks created by high school students. So now I will share my screen with y'all and we'll quickly go over our youth advocacy toolkit. All right. So this is our youth advocacy toolkit, and we made this to equip young people in Texas with the tools and the information needed to be effective gun violence prevention advocates. It's especially designed for people, high school students and people under the age of 18, who can often feel hopeless in this fight because they can't vote and determine who gets into power. So I will link this and y'all can read it deeper at a deeper level later, but then I'll just go over and hit the highlights now. So we have an overview of Texas gun laws, and then we have some data. Notably, nearly 100% of young people know at least one person who has been shot and wounded or killed. And then the root causes of gun violence are vast, but we work largely to address the lack of laws that keep guns out of the hands of people who could be a threat to themselves or others. And then when it comes to school safety, Texas is very familiar with that. We've had 2 of the 5 deadliest school shootings in American history. We had 10 people killed at Santa Fe High School in 2018 and 21 killed at Robb Elementary in 2022. And both of those anniversaries are coming up this month. And for solutions, there are many, but we focus on these, which are secure firearm storage laws, raising the age from 18 to 21 to purchase semi-automatic weapons, access to resources, and extreme risk protection laws. And we have some tips on effective communication, tips for talking about gun violence with others, some more data, and 2020 actually marked the first year where Texas youth died by suicide with a firearm more than half of the time. And then an overview of the Texas Ledge, which will convene again next January. Effective communication when it comes to social media advocacy, which young people are obviously very familiar with. How to best engage decision makers. And it's very important to remember your lawmakers and school officials work for you, and it's important for them to hear from their constituents and stakeholders when it comes to gun safety. Some community-based work young people can do. We have some self-care tips, some more self-care tips, and additional resources. And of course, we encourage you to get involved with all of the organizations that are here, including March for Our Lives Houston, Brady's Team Enough, and Youth GVA. And we hope you will join the fight with us. And you being here is already one step in that direction if you're not already an advocate. All right. So, Sami, do you want to kick off the next portion?
Yes, of course. So, like Jesse said, this is a huge opportunity to get involved in advocacy. My name's Sami Beg. I'm the co-executive director of March for Life Houston, as Jesse said, and I just want to talk about like how youth can get involved in advocacy. I don't think people like you don't have to have a entry point into an issue. You could just only care about an issue in the first place. And of course, being here is a first step in that direction. And from my experience, I joined March for Lives Houston, which is a 501(c)(3) dedicated to preventing gun violence in the Houston area. I started through a local club at my school. I met a friend there. She introduced me to March for Lives Houston, and gun violence had always been on my radar. I was in seventh grade when my neighbors were murdered. So um, it was always an issue that I was thinking about. And what I first did is I started to educate myself on the issue. And I think doing that first is a very essential step when you want to get involved in advocacy because it gives you direction. And what I did was I joined the organization. I started to read more about the issue. Rice University has the Baker Institute, and they host an event every single year where they invite advocates and healthcare experts and government officials from all over Houston to talk about gun violence prevention. And from there, I was able to better understand the issue. And that really helped me work with March for Lives Houston to draft the Houston Policy Plan, which talks about how Houston specifically can help prevent gun violence. So from there, I would say the next step after educating yourself on the issue is to work with your local government to start fighting against the issue. And what we did at March for Lives Houston was we went to Harris County Commissioner's Court meeting, and I was able to work with a team of like just like three people, and we were all testified on an item called Resolution 236, and that instituted a chair or a position for students to be involved in a local government commission. So that's how I got involved in a local school safety commission. And sometimes like being the only person in the room, I think people can like really underestimate how important it is to have diversity of perspectives. And being there in that room, I was able to challenge perspectives such as arming teachers, um, being able to talk about, hey, gun violence isn't an issue centered around video games and violence. Rather, there's gun laws that need to be more effective. So just being able to be in that room talking about school safety and being able to center students' concerns was a huge opportunity. And having been educated on the issue, I was able to speak on that. Again, I wasn't an expert, but I was always learning and doing my best to represent people from my community. And finally, when you engage with your local government, don't just think small. I want y'all to like think big. I was in my like junior year summer when I like set my sights on the legislature. I before had never been involved in that space. No one from our organization had really gone and testified before, much less like worked with a representative on a bill. Um, so what I did was I worked on HB 2076, which was mentioned before, and that has to do with domestic violence firearms prohibitions. And I read about that on Giffords, which was like this huge registrar of like all the different gun laws in Texas and how we can improve them in our state. And there was a loophole that I read about. And thing that like is really simple is that when there's loopholes, it makes so much more sense to just close them rather than to like create an entirely new law. So it was like a really easy entry point into like the state legislature. So um, what I did was I researched the bill, I found the loophole, and I sent an email to Representative Goodwin, who's a very amazing representative here in Texas. And she, her legislative team looked at it. And there's actually someone here who I want to mention who was extremely integral in that process, Tabitha Adithi, who, yes, hi. She actually responded to my email, and she was extremely passionate. She was able to listen to me, and I talked about the loophole. She cared so much. She put the bill into writing, got it filed, communicated with me on like how to work with the legislature. Like she was amazing, and I yeah, Jesse said no one knows gun policy better than tech. That is true. She is amazing. And having people in your community who are willing to take you under their wing and help you like understand the legislature and understand this issue better is such an important aspect of gun violence prevention advocacy. And taking what I learned from that passion, I was able to bring people with me to the legislature to testify. So I was very lucky for HB 2076 to receive a hearing in Austin. And for the first time, our organization was able to testify in the state capitol. So I took a local domestic violence shelter, a representative from there, Dia Houston. Her name is Tisha, and she testified with me. And she's from the South Asian community, so of course there's a relationship there. And it was just like a really important moment for me to realize, like, hey, I didn't know anything about the legislative session before, and now like I can be part of this community and this process. And I just want to say, like, I'm still today, like, Tabitha sends me opportunities. She sends me like information about gun violence prevention. I'm always learning, and I'm always learning through someone with someone. And having those people is just so, so important. Um, and I've always like strove to be that person for someone, to be someone else's Tabitha, giving people resources, being able to connect them to other people. And what happened was like later on when I was like, hey, I want to pursue my advocacy work, I met Nicole, and she really introduced me to more people in Texas. She introduced me to someone from Giffords, people who I had like, I literally would not have been able to talk to them before. And yes, and I was able to talk to like people from all over Texas. The GVP movement is so special in that everyone knows everyone. And when you get to like meet certain people, um, they will most likely have like connections with people who you want to meet as well. So there's always new perspectives to bring to the table, and people are very like open and respectful. So don't be like afraid to approach other people in this movement. So from like November on, I met with someone from Giffords at an event that I was invited to. Thank you, Nicole. And I applied to the Giffords Courage Fellowship, which is another huge opportunity to meet with gun violence prevention advocates from not only your own state, but from all over the nation. In Texas, they like flew you out. You got to meet with so many other people. And I am still to this day very close friends with a lot of the Courage Fellows. You're able to learn more about the national narrative of gun violence prevention. And that is really important because gun violence prevention takes on a very different role from state to state. And you can learn from other legislation from different states and how that affects you here. So, like it was very important for me to realize that the Texas legislature has a very abrasive political environment when it comes to gun violence prevention. And hearing from Nicole and like hearing from her perspective about how you really have to stick it out and you have to be patient, you have to take it slow, was really important for me as an advocate, because it's very hard sometimes to reconcile that, hey, look, all these other states are making progress within this movement. like they're making huge strides, but Texas is like moving slow. But you just have to like realize that your frame of progress is going to be different. Um, and you have a place within this movement to make progress. And I think like from here, there's so much opportunity within this meeting alone. You can join March for Our Lives. You're going to hear from Josser, who's talking about Brady. Serena started her own organization in Austin. So there's just so much talent in this room. And wherever you choose to get involved in this movement, you will be welcomed with open arms. So that's all I have to say. And please, 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 if you are in Houston, absolutely join March Rise Houston. We have some amazing advocacy initiatives that Ossie is going to elaborate on. And yeah, that's it for me. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Sami. That was amazing. And I agree with everything you said, um, especially just the fact that there's so much community to be found in this space. And like you said, there is a place for everyone, um, whether it's a full-time job, a volunteer position, showing up at our advocacy days, protests, anything. There is something for everyone. So I really appreciate that. And your work at the Ledge was incredible to hear about. Um, and there will be a lot of opportunities for people to get involved in the legislative session come next January. And so make sure that you are signed up for all of our organization's email lists and plugged in because we'll be sending a lot of opportunities to get engaged in Austin at the Capitol. All right, so Astia, do you want to go next and talk about your youth advocacy journey?
Sure. I think that Sami has started off so strong. I don't think mine was like as, I think as much of a roller coaster as his was. I really look up to him when it comes to like, dealing with the legislature. He knows so much more about that than me. Mine was, I think, maybe more of like the activism side. So I really love public speaking. And so when I first got involved, it was around March of 2022. And honestly, it was because I kept on seeing these news articles like constantly popping up on my phone, just like about different shootings in different parts of America. And I was like, how do I stop this? How do I help? Why am I not seeing enough young people like, like do something, right? And then like I think I found the opportunity on Instagram for March for Lives Houston. I joined it and I realized there is such a big youth movement behind gun violence prevention. And that the fact is just that our voice people are trying to ignore us, right? Our politicians are trying to ignore us. But as I've gotten like further into this movement, I've realized that slowly we're breaking down that wall and slowly we're making progress. But anyways, going back to where I started from, so I got involved, and then I eventually got the position of being the co-executive secretary. So I was right under the executive directors, and that around like a month later was when unfortunately Uvalde happened, and it was so unfortunate. I mean, it was the biggest tragedy I've ever seen. And after that, we had a large rally in front of Houston City Hall. We had almost 1,000 people show up, and it was amazing to see all these people come out here, actually like physically see this manifestation of people who want to prevent gun violence, who see this like these tragedies and these shootings happening and they want to do something to help. So seeing all these people show up really like encouraged me to keep going. And fortunately, I was also able to speak at that rally, and I think that's what really kickstarted me. Like obviously, like my first speech was not like very well given. It was the first time speaking in front of that many people, but it was definitely a starting off point. It was a jumping off point, and from there, we held another rally in front of the Austin State Capitol. We also had a lot of people show up on that one. Over time, me and Sami together, and also in my last session as the executive secretary, we organized town halls, we organized symposiums with experts in gun violence prevention and just violence prevention in general. Um, And I think this kind of ties in with something that we're working on right now. So if you guys find this interesting, if you want to help, you can join March for Lives Houston. Even if you don't live in the Houston area, mainly the stuff that we do is online. So if you live in like Texas in general, you want to help with this, then you can join. But me and Sami, throughout our term, we wanted to focus on the public health aspect of gun violence and what a big travesty it is to see people turn a blind eye to it. And so we work with violence prevention researchers who, sorry, I'm blinking out, but we work with violence prevention researchers who like look at the data in the Houston area, look at how marginalized and minority communities are disproportionately impacted by gun violence, and then finding community-driven solutions. And so right now we're working on a brochure that with it's like community programs that specifically target marginalized folk who are like in the line of fire. And we're attempting to make a brochure with all this information so people who go to the hospital for gun violence injuries can leave with this information to better their living situation, to make sure that they don't go back to the hospital again as a victim or a perpetrator. Um, and yeah, so throughout my term, obviously, I've focused on a lot of public health. We've also tried to just, bring more awareness to this issue. So we've held town halls, intersectionality town halls to focus on how people of different races, genders, sexualities are like impacted by this issue. Um, and I think that's like mainly it for me. We've those are the main things we focus on. So like town halls, symposiums, working with politicians, and then Sami, obviously, he worked a lot more on the legislation side. So, and I think he talked about that. And then, rallies. And I think those are the biggest things that we focused on.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing all of that. And we'll actually have our big joint advocacy day rally with March for Our Lives Houston, Brady. I assume Serena will be there as well if she can make it. And that'll take place sometime in February of 2025. So that's the best opportunity to attend a rally if you want to during the legislative session next year. All right, Josser, do you want to go ahead and talk about your experience?
Yeah, sure. First of all, hi, my name is Josser. I am a representative of Team Enough. I'm on their executive council. Team Enough is Brady's youth-led organization. It's kind of a subsidiary. We do basically anything regarding youth mobilization on gun violence. We do a lot of lobbying collectives or advocacy days in other states, and hopefully, as was just plugged, hopefully we're looking to partner with Texas Gun Sense and a whole bunch of other organizations for one in February 2025. So if you're at all interested in talking to legislators or working on any bills or anything, please contact me. I'll drop my info below. Um, but yeah, just a bit about the way that I started this work is I think the first thing that really got come onto my radar was Sandy Hook. And I think that is how it is for a lot of young people in my generation. I was in the fourth grade. Um, I wasn't even 10 years old. And I remember we stopped school activities in the wake of what we had heard about on the news. Um, and things really haven't been the same ever since. We've had to practice active shooter drills and hide under desks and closets and learn how to, confront this ever-present threat of whether or not someone's going to attack our school. It's not becoming like a general threat or a what if, but it's more of a when question now. And then in 2018, 17 kids and school staff were murdered at Parkland. And then 2 weeks later, after that, which had already got us all on high alert, a loaded gun made its way onto my high school campus. And that really brought that threat right to my front door. Um, we were all really terrified. People were, rumors were spreading. People were trying to flee the school. And we all kind of wondered, are we next? Like, am I going to make it home? Or am I just going to be another name on a long list of victims in another tragedy? And so that same week, there was another high school in my city that had a thwarted school shooting attempt. And my brother's middle school at the same time had threats like at least once a month. And so, you know, the violence really, it's just been present in my life. And I think that's, again, the experience of a lot of people. And at this point, it's become really normalized where, at my old high school, we now have metal detectors. It's like going through TSA every single day to get through school. And I think that's how it is for a lot of young people. And what really inspired me and pushed me over the edge was not just, watching all of this happen, but I remember watching my future friend and Team Enough founding member, Alea Eastman. She testified before the House Judiciary Committee, and Alea was at the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas shooting. And I remember crying while watching her testimony, not just because of the horror that she described herself being under while she was hiding under the body of Nicholas Doré, but it was Alea's resiliency and her bravery, and the fact that she was able to share her story and honor her fallen friends through it, and fight to prevent anyone else from ever experiencing that sort of pain. And so that's why I joined Team Up, because like Alea, I couldn't wait for elected officials to do the right thing. And I think that in Texas, we know that we really can't wait for elected officials to do the right thing, unfortunately. And I think that Sami kind of touched on this a little bit, but I think a lot of people feel like you need to have some foray or connection to the movement. You need to either have been a victim or know somebody who's been a victim. But I think that the important thing to consider is that, you know, gun violence is the leading cause of death for young people, more than cancer, more than car accidents. And so we can't afford to wait around to lose somebody that we love in order to act, because then we're going to become one of those nearly 100% of young people, according to the Southern Poverty Law Center, that knows somebody who's been shot or has been killed by gun violence, right? And so I think that's really important to consider as potential youth advocates. Is you guys, I think that if you're inspired to do the work like I've been, then you don't need to have any foray. You can, again, as Sami said and everyone said before me, just reach out to any of our organizations, Team Enough and Brady. We'll have good work for you to do, right? Because there's a lot of work that needs to be done in this issue space, unfortunately. But there's a lot of good that can be done as well. And youth have a lot of power in order to help change the narrative surrounding gun violence and take action. We talk about the potential for a youth advocacy day, um, and in conjunction with the Texas Gun Sense Advocacy Day. And Brady, a lot of the stuff that we do regarding youth advocacy days is we'll have training programs. I think I got to speak at a training. I got to speak like at a similar webinar like this at a training program for our DC advocacy program, where we have young people just like you guys. Again, these can be kids that are as young as 13, 14 years old, and as old as I am, high school age or college age. And so, you know, if you're passionate about the movement and you're willing to learn about the movement and you're willing to understand, what's causing these problems and how we can fix them, there's a place for you. And it's really important because when we provide that education about what's important, ways that we can save lives, things like safe stores, things like, ending the gun show loophole, like what recently passed and is now being challenged by Texas and courts. You have the ability to have this really unique advocacy, because it's especially important that young people have their voice represented, because we can't vote, a lot of us. If you're not 18 or you're not registered, because there's a lot of barriers there, you can't vote. And so our voices aren't going to be represented through, just voting and through our elected officials, because we don't have the power to do that. But we do have a unique voice, because because gun violence is the leading cause of death among young people, because we're in a new generation where you have, school shootings, you know, the other older people, and older people like Gen X, they don't understand that same threat the same way that we do. They don't understand that we have to do active shooter drills. But our voice is extremely powerful. When we train young people to understand the issue and talk to lawmakers and they have to look us in the eye and tell us no, that we're not going to pass common sense legislation like raising the age. When they have to tell us no, that they're not going to mandate safe storage, that is extremely powerful. And we've been able to, I think recently in Colorado, for example, a Brady, a Brady a youth advocacy training program. We brought people to the Capitol in Colorado, and they talked about a assault weapons ban to, to the legislators there. And initially, we didn't think that it was going to get out of committee, because assault weapons bans, it's about as far as you can go in terms of, you know, providing limitations on gun violence, even though, again, it's a pretty common sense thing. We shouldn't have weapons of war on our streets. But we ended up getting it passed out of committee. And a lot of, there's tons of testimonials of Republicans who switch sides because they have to look us in the eye and tell us no. And so that you shouldn't discount that youth voice that we have. I think that's extremely important. And again, we have a very unique sort of, viewpoint, and, we have a unique urgency towards this issue. So if you have any questions about the movement or, ways to get involved, then please reach out to any of us on the panel. I'll link Team Enough's website in the chat. But you guys have a powerful voice, and I really, really urge you to use it if you want to help save lives and prevent other people from feeling the pain that thousands of other people across the country have felt.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm feeling so inspired by all of y'all. And yeah, I mean, you talking also reminded me of what Sami said earlier, and you touched on this as well, but change in Texas, especially with our current political landscape, is a long game, and it's long-term incremental change, and we can't give up hope despite it taking longer in our state than other states to get the results that we want through policy. So that's important to remember. All right, now we will hear from Serena.
All right. Hi, my name is Serena Ray. I'm the founder of Youth GVA, which stands for Austin Youth Gun Violence Awareness. I am a junior at Austin High School, and I wanted to talk a little bit about both the high school perspective and what motivated me to start Youth GVA. So the whole initiative and me getting involved in gun violence prevention started when I was a sophomore, and it was a group project. It was right after we came back from a school trip to Costa Rica, and we were tasked to organize a project surrounding an issue that had both local and global impacts. So we were thinking of issues that were relevant to teenagers today and thinking of things that we could do within our scope as high school students. And one thing that we realized when we were doing our research is when comparing the United States and especially Texas and our local community to other nations, just as we had come back from our trip, we realized there was kind of a disproportionate change between how a lot of policies here in the United States are enacted and what action is being taken when comparing the United States to other countries. So we decided to launch our project, and I actually did an interview with Texas Gun Sense back when I was a sophomore, and that was such an amazing initiative. And after that, I honestly just felt so inspired to continue the work of gun violence prevention and gun violence awareness. We were able to organize a walkout within our school, and I interviewed journalists all through that project. And like Sammy was saying earlier, in this community, there are always people that are willing to reach out to you. If you reach out to them, there are always people that are willing to help you in your goals. And if you just send them an email, I'm sure they will answer you back. So I founded Youth GVA in August of 2023, just as I was entering my junior year. Founding an organization definitely is not easy. I had to start pretty much from the ground up, but by establishing some roots kind of in this community and working with Texas Gun Sense and other amazing organizations such as GVpedia and other groups that do a lot of gun violence awareness work, I was really able to expand my outreach. And one thing that I have always been passionate about is art advocacy. Ever since I was super young, I've always loved art kind of as my side passion. So I really wanted to do something that could tie in youth that maybe don't have the words at the moment to express how they feel, but want to still get engaged and want to still be involved in advocacy in a way that might not directly use direct expression. So my project kind of focused upon art advocacy as well as policy education for youth in the Austin area. So since founding Youth GVA, I've gotten my website up, and we've really been working on art advocacy initiatives. So I've organized a couple art advocacy drives kind of within my art class at my school, and we currently have 7 artworks up in our digital gallery. And this summer, I'm working with the director of AISD Art to get a gallery here in Austin of a bunch of different art advocacy works. And this even includes some very small 5-minute art advocacy pieces from elementary to middle school age kids that came and created artworks at an event that I tabled. So it really goes to show how sometimes something as simple as creating an artwork can really be so powerful for youth that might not have the voice at the moment to express how they feel. Because whether you know it or not, whether you've directly experienced it or not, gun violence affects every single high school student. We see headline after headline, and I feel as though at this point, a lot of youth are very desensitized to the issue because there have been so many instances of mass shootings, so many articles that we see of a firearm being brought to school. school, especially here in Texas. And I wanted to be a part of the initiative that helped to make a change. So another kind of aspect that I've been working on is, like Jesse said, a lot of your educators are there to help you. They want to hear from you and they need to hear from you. So I reached out to the AISD Emergency Management, and if you didn't know, AISD stands for Austin Independent School District. That's the largest school district kind of in the Austin area, and it encompasses a lot of the area high schools kind of in the Austin metropolitan region. And the emergency management director helped me get my website to be a resource on the AISD website and help me distribute resources to both parents and kids throughout the AISD Independent School District. And this was super amazing to be able to spread resources such as education as well as my art advocacy awareness to youth all throughout the Austin area. And I'm currently working with him alongside my school wellness counselor to establish kind of a parent toolkit to kind of mental health awareness surrounding this issue, as even the simplest things such as reading advice on how to have those hard conversations with your kids can really make such a big impact. And I'm super happy to have the opportunity to come speak here. And I've continued to be very inspired by this movement and all the people who work so hard to keep pushing for what they believe in and keep pushing for gun violence prevention, as it is so important, especially as youth, to use your voice, even if it's through art, but use your voice because you are there to uplift others and you are there to speak for the change that you want to see. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Serena. And I just want to shout out Serena's internship work and how incredible she is at Texas Gun Sense. We could not do a lot of the stuff that we do without her. And her art is incredible. I linked her website in the chat and she can provide her email and contact info. But I encourage everybody to check that out. So if anyone has any questions for any speakers, please put them in the chat, and we will get those answered. But if there aren't any questions, I just want to leave y'all with some calls to action. Everyone here represents a group that you can get involved with. And at Texas Gun Sense, especially, we provide a really critical pathway to getting involved in the larger GVP movement and impacting communities across Texas. And we will continue to have web events like this. We have our next one in June, and it'll focus on survivors. And if you are on our email list or follow our social media, you'll see registration links for that soon. And I will put a link in the chat now for contacting lawmakers and making your voice heard through that way. And we have templates set up so that you can use our sample text to reach out to your representatives. We also just released our safe storage toolkit, and that provides a sample letter as well that people can use to contact their school districts to ensure that they're distributing safe gun storage education materials to parents in compliance with HB3. And that amendment in HB3 was coordinated with Texas Gun Sense. Nicole worked with Representative Dutton to get that passed. And yeah, and like I said a couple times, there's a lot of ways to get involved in the legislature, sorry. And our advocacy day will be next February, and that is the best opportunity to show up and have your voice heard and meet
Jesse,
other advocates.
sorry, Jesse, I'm going to step in real quick. I was monitoring the chat just to kind of help you out. There was a question that I wasn't able to answer. Daryl was asking about Collin County youth advocate groups, and maybe one of you knows, because I don't have a contact there. Any speakers know?
No. I saw you mentioned Alan And there, I know he is on this call and he might know. Alan, do you know any Collin County
I
group?
live I live in Fort Worth, which is Tarrant County, so
Yeah.
I don't know McKinney.
Okay.
Daryl, feel free to, we put our emails in the chat. Feel free to reach out to people and we'll let you know if we make a contact. It would be great if there was one. It sounds like we need one. Yeah, that's right. Was there another, Alan, you asked about a copy of was that the youth toolkit you were asking for? Shayna shared it, so that's probably what you were looking for.
And yeah, as Tabby mentioned in the chat, our safe storage toolkit that I linked, it gives you talking points and ways to contact your school districts. But it is, if you are a current student, or even just a resident and have connections to that school district, you can ask them and make sure that they have distributed that safe gun storage information. All right. Well, if nobody has any questions, we will. Oh, and then Shayna said there's been some active March for Our Lives Dallas chapters in the past. Don't know if there is one now, but yeah, but thank you so much to all of our speakers and to everybody who showed up tonight. Whether you're brand new to this movement or a seasoned advocate, there's space for you, and we're happy you're here. And last thing, this recording will be posted to our YouTube channel tomorrow, and we'll post that on socials.
Just echoing what Jesse said, thank you. You guys were wonderful speakers. Thank you so much. I thought it was very inspiring.
Agreed. Thank you guys so much.